All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with the CEO of Bitstamp, Bobby. How we doing, man? How's the day going?
It's awesome. It's Friday.
It is. In the Call of Duty world, we like to say it's Friday, FRY day, because we're having some absolute good games. So I'm excited to have some good conversations with you today, but just kind of dive right into it. I want to know your background, how you got started, where you kind of got to where you are today. I'm really interested to hear about it, and hopefully we'll have the flip side conversation for me as well.
Sure. Yeah. I'll give you some quick background. Although my career path doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense, but I started as an engineer at Texas Instruments working on missiles. Then I got into strategy consulting, so working with businesses to figure out how they're going to compete and win. And then I went through an entrepreneurial phase. I founded a company or co-founded a company and led that for a few years, and then we sold that company. And then I was an executive, a C-level executive with a Fortune 500 company called CME Group, which is a large financial services marketplace where people buy and sell. And it was there that I got involved in crypto. So one of my responsibilities was our venture capital arm. So CME Ventures, we started investing in crypto companies and blockchain companies in 2014. And I became quite fascinated with the technology and the possibilities. And ultimately, I wanted to be a part of a company that was inventing this versus kind of watching it from the sidelines. And I was fortunate enough to be able to join a crypto exchange called Kraken. I was there for 3 years as chief commercial officer. And then a year ago, I came over to Bitstamp to lead the U.S. business and lead the commercial organization globally. So, I'm not sure what that all means, but it's been super interesting and a lot of fun. I think being a part of a growth industry where it's changing every day is, to me, that just makes it challenging, but makes it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely the growth industry is a good way to put it. There's been a lot of talk about it for the last several years. Like, we're having a conversation off camera. And it's always cool to hear people's stories and kind of how they got started and things.
Yeah, well, it's a lot like gaming. I mean, I as somebody in the crypto industry, we look at the gaming industry a lot because I think there's a lot of parallels. There's, it's really community driven. There's kind of a nice, healthy dose of irreverence, but also, serious opportunities and serious businesses that are driving it, and entrepreneurs like content people like yourself. So we take a lot of cues from the gaming industry just to see where we might be headed and how we can maximize the experience and the community and the opportunity for people.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's always crazy to see. I know, thinking back to when I first started this whole entire thing when I was 14 years old, some of the companies, including Bitstamp, I would never in a million years would have thought, oh my goodness, gaming is going to be so big to the point where we have all these like real life, like companies is what I like to call it, come into gaming. It's just crazy. Like, I remember when I was on my come up, there was like a pretzels company and like Stride gum and like a few companies, just small companies at these gaming tournaments. And maybe Dr. Pepper. And that was it. And I never truthfully thought it would get to where it is today. So it's definitely crazy.
I recently with the Immortals team, I got to go to a championship in Chicago recently at the United Center, and that was an eye-opening experience. To your point about how big it's gotten and how exciting it is and how fun it is, and just how many people from all walks of life are super invested in it. So, it's been eye-opening for me.
Definitely crazy. So, I guess, you kind of told me a little bit of how you got to where you are today. How does what's a day in the life, I guess, look like for you as the CEO? Like, what does, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., or maybe that's not even your schedule, every single day look like?
Yeah, I would love it if my schedule was 8 to 5. It's a little bit crazier. So Bitstamp is based in Europe. And so time zones are an issue. So my mornings start pretty early because the overlap in time zones is basically kind of early morning till midday in Chicago time. I'm in Chicago. So I've got meetings slated starting at 6:30 or 7 a.m. pretty solid until noon. And in those meetings, I'm meeting with clients or other executives on the Bitstamp team to make decisions. And basically, the part of the job that I like is we get to chart the course. We get to figure out, right, what is, where is our place in the world? How are we going to, add value? How are we going to, make an impact on more people? And, how are we going to outflank our competitors? And it's quite creative, actually. And so that's where I spend my days. And then in the afternoons, usually I get to do some work, which is, thinking and problem solving and working with my teams. A big part of being a CEO is just building great teams. If you could just, get good at identifying, unique people who really give a shit, then that gives you a good advantage in terms of building a team. So I spend a lot of time on that too.
That's awesome. And what do you do? We spoke just briefly before we went live. You're a Bears fan. What does fun look like, I guess, outside of work? Do you have any hobbies or anything you like to do or follow past, the meetings and everything like that?
Yeah, Slacked. I got a few things. I like to work out a lot, and I do triathlons. So I spend a lot of time on that, and I also have a music hang up. I'm kind of a recovering musician, so I'm in a couple bands, and so we're rehearsing and playing shows around town, and then I got the family stuff. So I have family, and that's a kind of a big investment of time, but super fun also. I know you've got a family on the way.
Yeah, man, it's been a blessing. It's crazy. It's like the wife and I have always wanted kids, and here we are about halfway through. We're going to find out the gender actually next weekend. So it's going to be a little switch up in our lives. Definitely a change of pace, but I'm really excited for it. It seems like everybody I've talked to, everybody who has kids, they're like, it's the biggest blessing, best thing you could ever have in your life. So definitely looking forward to it. Like I said, it'll definitely be a change of pace though.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I would say. I've done some cool things in my life, but this is by far the coolest. So you'll enjoy it. Of course, it's challenging. There's ups and downs. There's different, every kind of age. There's a different set of joys and challenges, and I think it shapes you as a person. So I think it's a good thing.
Absolutely. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Maybe I can take some of my Call of Duty skills that I've learned and carry them into Paradise.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. But okay, so tell me about Call of Duty. My question about this is, well, two questions. Firstly, I know we've got a new release coming soon. What's your view of it? What's different and how's that going to play out in your life?
Yeah, so Call of Duty, actually, I'm not sure if you know this, every single year, this is why it's one of the craziest games to follow. We change games every 365 days. So usually there's a new release around October and November every single year. And for me, I've personally played in the Call of Duty Professional League for 10 years. And every single year when that time comes, the game drops, and we call it grind time. Basically, when that game comes out at midnight, it's supposed to come out the 28th, so it'll come out midnight the 27th of this month coming up. And kind of just go into lockdown mode, really. You're relearning everything. So like the guns change, the maps change. Literally, it's like a complete fresh start. So for the fans following it from the outside looking in, it's definitely a lot. There's a lot of excitement. It's like the best time of year for like creating content, for streaming, for just posting videos and different things like that, because there's so many different eyes of people looking in, wanting to know what the best guns are, what the best maps are, what their favorite players using. So it creates a lot of really good opportunities and a lot of new people coming into the scene. So there's a lot of areas for growth. So it's definitely, like I said, the definition of grind time for me. You're posting 5 to 7 videos, you're streaming for 8+ hours. I mean, I'm not joking you. I've spent 16, 18 hours in my chair gaming when the game drops, just because there's so much new stuff. And it's like, you want to be that first person to get it out to the internet, to the world, whether it's posting it on YouTube or posting it on Twitch, or making a TikTok about it. All the social media stuff is crazy nowadays. So I have an editor. When that game comes out on the 27th, I'll be streaming and just recording videos and making content. probably working hard for 12 plus hours a day. Then after I turn off of my stream and I'm done being live, I'll record stuff on the flip side and just get it done. So it's definitely a lot of work, but like I said, it's a very exciting time of year just because it is so fresh and there are so many new eyes on the scene and on the game. So crazy time of year, man. I'm looking forward to it.
So I understand you're one of the best Warzone players on the planet. And my question is, what makes somebody great at one of those battle royale games? Is it, is it hand-eye? Is it strategy? Is it practice? Is it, something else? Like what differentiates somebody who's great at this versus somebody who's good at this?
So for me personally, I kind of like a little bit of a cheat code, I think, just because I come from that professional Call of Duty background where I have so much practice and understanding of Call of Duty, and then you're transferring it into Warzone. So yeah, it's a battle royale and it's a little bit different, but as far as like all the fundamentals and the mechanics, they're all the exact same, right? Like the guns, the first person shooter, all that stuff is the exact same. So someone who's really good or great, I think, kind of understands all of the ins and outs of the game, all the nerdy stuff is what people would call it, and just kind of figuring out how to play certain scenarios, whether like, let's say you and I are playing against each other. I'm going to use maybe height to my advantage to get up above you, and you're not going to be able to look up and be able to kill me in time, or just little things that you learn. And like I said, I've been doing this for 11 plus years. It's all I've known and all I've done for a long, long time. So I think the good and the great are people who kind of just like study, and it's everything that they have. It's all that they do. I'm a firm believer of like, if you want to be good at something and like actually be successful in it, you'll put all your time and all your effort into it. So I think all the great players or the elite players are people who kind of do this full time as a living. And then, the good players are more the casual people who maybe it's a thing they do after work or something like that. They like to throw on the game and play for a little bit, and it's kind of just a casual hobby.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I'm sure it's like many things, just put in the hours.
Yep, exactly. That's what I tell everybody. It's like, I'll have so many people who come into my stream or ask me in real life about, hey, how do I get better at this? Or how do I do that? And I'm like, you got to just put in the time. Nothing happens overnight. I mean, that's life, right? Like if you try to be really good at basketball or golf, you're not going to just pick up a golf club and instantly be really good at golf or have a perfect swing. It's like, you got to put in plenty of time, get those reps in, and maybe you got to have someone teach you and help you learn different things. And I think it's really the exact same thing with Call of Duty.
If your occupation is what a lot of people think of as recreational, like what do you do for fun? So if you spend 16 hours a day playing, gaming or playing Call of Duty, what do you do when you're not doing that?
So after as I've gotten older now, really over the last 2 or 3 years, when I'm done gaming or working now, it is off. Like I am out of my office, the door is shut, and I am no longer touching the video game. It doesn't matter if Patrick Mahomes is asking me to play Call of Duty or whoever it may be. It's like, this is my free time, my relaxed time. Like I was telling you a little bit before the camera, I've had multiple different NFL guys be like, hey, let's play. And I'm like, no, like I'm done. Like I'm not going to ask you to go sling around a football all day after you played football, for your whole day. So fun for me is just, I'll usually go upstairs. The wife and I will cook dinner. I like cooking a lot. I'm starting to learn a little bit of that. We'll either go out different places. I got a good friend group and family around me, so we'll go out and do different things around the city. I like to travel. I like to work out. I like to play basketball a lot. I still try and do that. I did it in high school, and I still try and get around when I can. And really just hanging out around the city. Nothing too crazy.
Well, let me ask you this. So let's talk about crypto. Like what do you think your audience posture or perspective is on crypto? Is they're positive or skeptical or what?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got you here. We got the boss here, the CEO of Bitstamp. But yeah, I mean, I would love to talk about crypto. Obviously, I mean, we spoke a little bit. I'm slightly involved as I'm getting older. I'm starting to spend some more time just kind of doing some research. Like I said, I have personal money involved in it, and I'm always kind of willing to learn. I'd love to kind of get your take on it and just open up some of the eyes of my fans and people who are going to be watching this of just crypto, and talk a little bit about how much, I guess, the roller coaster of emotions it could have, but how good of a thing it is as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few things that not a lot of people fully appreciate about crypto. So firstly, it was started back in 2008 to solve a couple of problems. And you probably know this like pseudonymous guy, Satoshi Nakamoto, who published a white paper. But the way I read that white paper, and many people do, is he or they, perceived some problems in the world, and they set out to try to address them with a new way to think about money. And the problems they were addressing is, firstly, transfer of money between two parties, or transfer of value even between two parties. In today's world, the only way you can do that, unless you hand somebody a 20 physically, is via a middleman or via some centralized organization. And those guys, first of all, they might mess up, but secondly, they charge you. They charge a lot. So if you want to send money home to your parents in Mexico or whatever, it's quite expensive. It could be 20% to just get the money down there. And then the second problem that he or they were trying to solve was just independence. So enabling people to manage their money without being dependent on some third party or some centralized organization. Why? Because people are fallible, and particularly, rooms full of old white men, can be super fallible. History would say so. So in this country, we take for granted in general that you can kind of trust our central bank, the Federal Reserve. You can kind of trust our banks and our banking system, although they are clearly fallible. But in many parts of the world, that's not the case. You cannot trust the government or the central bank or even private banks. If you think about Venezuela, for instance, this society, people work hard their whole lives. They try to save money for retirement, and the money just evaporates because they have a 1,000,000% or so inflation every year because the government, well, I can't say why, but they're definitely not managing it correctly. And even if you try to deposit that money in a bank, there's a lot of crooked banks, and so you end up really at risk. So what do? You can either sit there, watch all your money disappear, or wouldn't it be great if there was an alternative that you managed for yourself? And that's where the Bitcoin protocol, kind of came into being. And so I think people think of it as an investment, and hopefully it goes to the moon and we all make money. And that's certainly a part of the phenomenon today, but it's not where it started. And to me, it's not what's most important. What's most important is the use cases that are underlying this stuff. So, and each token has a different use case in mind. But those tokens, the value of those tokens float and they move. And that's how it's become kind of a speculation driven conversation right now, is people in this country, forget about crypto for a second. People like to speculate. People like to, whether it's stocks or gold or, something else, they like to buy it and see if they're going to get rich quick. And that's, unfortunately, a lot of crypto gets associated with that culture, but that's really not the point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I completely understand what you're saying.
So what I try to focus on is, firstly, making sure that people have easy access to participate in this, ecosystem or this marketplace, because it does create opportunities. There are investment opportunities, but there's also opportunities to participate differently. So there's cryptocurrency tokens that allow you to manage music via directly with recording artists. There's ecosystems that allow gaming. So blockchain based gaming, where you can move your skins and your merch from one game to another, and it's all you're owned and managed by yourself. And so those are the things that I think are most interesting about it, versus like let me buy a Dogecoin and see if it goes to $1,000 or something.
Absolutely. And you kind of mentioned it just a little bit on blockchain, but one of the points here too was the future of like Call of Duty and crypto. Like, do you ever think there would be a point where, like, for instance, if you go in the Call of Duty store and you're buying something, right? Like whether it's a skin like you were talking about or a gun or whatever it may be, you're using USD. Do you think there'll be a point where we'll see it where you can use crypto to make those purchases and, you know, like you said, kind of control it or own it yourself?
Absolutely. I mean, talk about a perfect marriage. I mean, just, digital money in a digital environment, just should be the easiest way to do it. And, you're not necessarily dependent on a credit card company or a bank that's going to charge you a fee to move your money around. So yeah, the answer, I believe, absolutely. I think the challenge, though, is education. So we did a survey recently. We at Bitstamp, where we polled about 30,000 people, and we asked them a lot of questions about their views on cryptocurrency and trust, because we wanted to understand, at a point in time, and then we revisit it quarterly, how the trust factor or the trust index changes. And one of the things we learned is that the trust is much higher than the newspapers would have you believe. The newspapers, I think, they paint Bitcoin and crypto into kind of a dark place based on some outdated, kind of frames of reference. But our survey would suggest that about, almost 70% of people and institutions trust it. They think it's a trustworthy concept, and most of them think it'll be mainstream in 5 to 10 years. But the other thing we learned is that when we ask people, what's the barrier? Are you interested to participate, and what keeps you from participating? Those who are interested to participate said the biggest barrier, or one of the biggest barriers, is lack of knowledge. Like they don't even know where to start. So at Bitstamp, we tried to help address that. We created a Learn Center on our website, which has kind of curated information for people to meet them wherever they are on their journey. If they're just curious about crypto, there's a whole lot of content there to answer their questions. And if they're already invested in crypto but want to figure out what's coming next, or how to get involved in trading or something else, there's a whole lot of content there curated for them. So we're trying to make it accessible. We're not trying to push it on anyone. We're just trying to make it accessible for people who want to learn more and participate.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, I think that's such a big thing too, even for someone like myself. Before, I had all these friends and people telling me like, hey, crypto is the next thing. Like, you definitely need to get involved with it. Different things like that. And for me, it was like, I'm going off of word of mouth, right? Like, I don't have anybody with a really set in stone 100% like, oh, get involved, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, for Bitstamp to have that, I think it's huge, because like you said, just for somebody to get their foot in the door and kind of get used to understanding what really crypto is, it's huge that Bitstamp has kind of all the, I'm sure, frequently asked questions all kind of right there for them. So definitely huge for anybody probably listening to this. I mean, you can literally go there and figure out all of your questions and concerns before you even get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing we do is it's kind of a big decision for some people to get involved or to make their first purchase. Mm-hmm. And there's some misconceptions about it. So for instance, I think it's pretty widely known that the price of a Bitcoin is, around 20 grand. But it may not be widely known that you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can buy, $1, $1's worth of Bitcoin, or $5 worth of Bitcoin. We fractionalize it to 9 decimal places. And so that's, I think that, takes some of the pressure off and reduces the risk. It allows people to participate without, putting a lot of their hard-earned savings at risk. And then secondly, I think that people who want to get involved should be able to talk to somebody about it. So, if they have questions, or if they, not sure how to proceed. So at Bitstamp, we've invested in our customer support capabilities so that you can talk to a person. Most of the players in the crypto space, they're like Facebook or something. If you have an issue, they do, it's almost impossible to talk to anybody, or impossible. But we do it a little bit differently. We think these next few years, the adoption and the people coming in looks different than the last few years. The last few years you had pioneers, people who were hell bent on getting into the crypto market, and they were going to put up with anything, and they were going to take the risk, and they were going to go do it. But these next few years, I think people are a little bit more discerning. They want to make sure they're working with, a regulated company like Bitstamp. They want to make sure that they can get their questions answered. They want to make sure that they know the differences between Bitcoin and Ether and other types of currencies.
Absolutely. I think that's huge. Like you said, a lot of these companies, you reach out, it's like an automated message. It's like, hey, I need help with this or whatever it may be. And it sends you some little bubble that, it's just like a robot talking to you. So definitely a huge thing for myself included. It's like, if you need help or need understanding of something, like you can actually get real customer service help instantaneously. So definitely a huge thing again for anybody listening at home. Something I want to ask you, and maybe lastly is kind of what we wrap it up on, but as far as like to my gaming audience or just really anybody who's not super familiar with crypto, is there like any misconceptions or things that you want to like, I don't know, I guess eye open to some people? Maybe they're scared to get in on crypto. We've kind of spoke briefly about everything, but is there anything you would like want, maybe you could look back and be like, I wish somebody would have told me this, so that way I would have got into crypto? Yeah,
absolutely. So a couple things come to mind. One is it's never too late to get involved. I know when I got involved on a full-time basis, it was 2018, and the price of Bitcoin was $3,000, and I felt like I'd already missed the boat, and everything seemed to be established. But then when you get into it, it's still so early. So I've looking at studies all the time. The most recent study I looked at is somewhere between 16 and 20% of American adults have invested in crypto or participated in crypto. So that means 80% haven't. So it's really mind blowing what is possible and what that's going to feel like and look like over the next, like you said, 5 or 10 years. So I think that's something that I would first say is, it's never too late to get involved. The second thing is, I talked about it a little bit. I think people, see the Super Bowl ads from, some crypto companies and the arenas that have been named and it just seems like kind of a shill culture, just trying to get everybody to buy and it's this get rich quick thing that I think gives crypto a bad name sometimes. So I would encourage everybody to look beyond the investment use case to like some of the underlying technology and the underlying use cases, which are super interesting. And then finally, I would say, there's a lot of opportunities with crypto that don't get talked about as much, like staking. So, staking is a process by which certain blockchain protocols enlist people in the network to help them secure their network and their blockchain, and they do it by allowing you to stake tokens, where you basically set them aside so that they can lean on them as they secure the network. And for that, you get a reward, which is kind of almost like an interest rate on a savings account. But the rewards, that you can get on a cryptocurrency via staking are really good returns versus what you can get in a savings account today, or a lot of traditional investments. So, and that's nice. That's not speculating. That's not like betting on a cryptocurrency to increase in value, or it's really just, participating, supporting the network and getting a reward. So I think that's just one example of some interesting facets of crypto that are safe and secure and easy. Again, at Bitstamp, we offer this service that people need to think about or learn about, such as via our Learn Center.
Absolutely. Well, I know that even helps me hearing all that stuff. I think that's, again, a big thing for me. Like, It's so funny you bring it up because I feel like everyone has felt that at some point where it's like, oh, I'm in too late, or I missed maybe the wave of, the jump of a certain coin or whatever it may be. And it's like people are in it to get rich quick and maybe not in it for the long haul. And maybe some people do, look at it the wrong way. So I think that's a huge piece of advice, especially coming from someone like yourself that can help people maybe open the door to having that conversation with somebody at Bitstamp and getting a better understanding of what that can look like and how they can kind of get started. Bobby, thank you for talking with me. It was amazing talking to you about Bitstamp and getting to learn more. Even hearing some of the things you had to say was eye-opening to me. And I hope everybody watching this gave you guys maybe like I said, a little leap of faith maybe you guys can take to go on and check out Bitstamp, talk to some real people, get a better understanding of what investing in crypto looks like. And again, it was awesome talking with you, Bobby. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you, guys.